Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming over. I hope you're having an exciting day today. We understand it's been a long one, and we are all very keen to go and head to the after party. So we'll try and make this one of the most memorable sessions of the day for you. Throughout the day, you would have been hearing about the benefits of cloud and how the need for speed, agility, scale, and ease of deployment is required in business today. In this session, we are going to talk about app modernization and app migration, but also link it to how to enhance the end-user experience in the way. Globally, we are seeing a trend in organizations where they're thinking about the end-user experience before they think about the technologies that are needed to power those experiences. We call this an outside-in thinking. Woolworths is a shining example of this outside-in thinking mindset. Woolworths is the largest retailer in Australia, and they have been able to provide their consumers with a seamless omni-channel experience, irrespective of the channel that they are accessing the Woolworths services on, whether it's web app, mobile app, or even Google Cloud, or Google Home, rather. My name is Parna Bhattacharya. I've been with Google for the last 2.5 years, and with Apigee for 6 years prior to that. Throughout my journey, I have played a variety of roles, right from engineering to consulting to leading the sales engineering team today. The charter of my team is to accelerate our customers' success on the platform and provide them business value on the platform as soon as possible. I'm thrilled to have with me on stage Joshua Rogers from Woolworths. Josh, over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Josh Rogers. I am the Platform Technology Manager at WooliesX. I just started there about a year ago, and I'm keen to help them on their cloud journey, and we're going to go over some of that today.
Sure. Thanks, Josh. So let's quickly go over the agenda for the day, for what we are going to cover in the next 45 minutes. We'll start with the various paths that an organization can take to move to the cloud and modernize their technical stack on the way. We'll talk about some of the key challenges that we have learned in our journey with multiple customers globally, and how can APIs and API management help mitigate some of those challenges and risks. Josh would then take over and talk to us about Woolworths' journey of providing their consumers with connected experiences, and then provide specific examples of how they have modernized their technical stack and migrated some of the key workloads to the cloud. We'll finish the session with an omni-channel demo and an architecture associated with it. By the way, Josh and I both have flown all the way from Australia, and to make this session more interesting, we decided to share some Aussie fun facts with you throughout the session. So pay attention. A quick reminder, throughout the session, please feel free to add questions on the Dory app. Go to the next app, click on the session link, and add questions throughout the session. At the end of the session, if we have time, we'll answer some of those questions. If not, we'll make sure that we get to each one of them offline. All right, let's get started. Any organization needs to decide their cloud strategy based on multiple paths that they can take on moving to the cloud. Organizations can decide to lift and shift their workloads into the cloud and then modernize it, or they can decide to modernize on-prem and then move to the cloud. Very rarely do we see organizations just moving to the cloud without an aspect of modernization associated with it. But any organization would have to decide one of these paths based on the workloads that they're migrating and the consumers of those workloads. Migration is never easy. It takes time, sometimes months, sometimes even years. Irrespective of the path that's chosen for migration, APIs and API management can make sure that the path towards moving to the cloud is made easier. Next, let's take a look at some of the common challenges that we have seen our customers face through the various field engagements that we have worked with the customers globally, or the surveys that we have conducted. The first and foremost challenge that any organization faces is business continuity. Migrating to the cloud should not disrupt the existing user experiences that an organization has. And those can be external experiences over web or mobile apps. It can be a partner experience, or even your internal employee apps. That's the first challenge. The second is, of course, security. When workloads are migrated to the cloud, the data invariably lives in multiple places and are being accessed through multiple channels. Making sure that this happens in a secure way, adhering to the compliance requirement and the best practices that your organization has set up is vital. The third challenge is visibility. There are some key questions that any organization faces during the migration to the cloud. How's the traction of my migration? Which workloads have migrated to the cloud, which are still on-premise? Are my on-premise apps still getting traffic from consumers, or can I deprecate them or decommission them? Answers to these questions are key to take some business decisions in any organization. The fourth challenge is interoperability. The new or modern apps which have been replatformed and moved to the cloud many a times don't want to access the legacy protocols that the legacy apps might expose. Also, the onus of talking to a different kind of backend, whether it's modern or legacy, should not lie with the app developer. The app developer in this case are our consumers. Because this will make their apps more complex, they would have to write conditional code based on whether they are connecting to a modern app versus a legacy app. So that's the fourth challenge. The last challenge is unmanaged services. Moving to the cloud invariably results into or most of the time results into a microservices-based architecture. While we understand the value of microservices-based architecture, there might be unmanaged microservices which can cause security challenges, duplication of code, or unintended behaviors. With me so far? Good. Introducing Apigee. Apigee is a full lifecycle API management platform. I can talk about Apigee for the next few hours, but for the purpose of this section, I'm going to just restrict myself to the features of Apigee that will help us in mitigating the risks that we spoke about in the previous slide. Josh, in his section, is going to cover some of the high-level key features that Woolworths is leveraging of the platform today. So here, on the left-hand side, you see the various end-user experiences which are exposed through web or mobile channels. These are your end customers. On the right, you see the backends, or the system of records. These system of records can be on microservices, it can be a Node.js app, it can be an app on GKE, or even a legacy monolithic application. The biggest challenge that any app migration faces is the tight coupling of the user experience with the system of records, or the exposure layer and the consumption layer. So Apigee provides a layer of abstraction between these two worlds, ensuring service connectivity and making sure that the apps, whether they are the front-end workloads or the back-end workloads, can be migrated without disrupting the existing user experiences. We spoke about the security challenge. Apigee can act both as a security mediation and a security enforcement layer. So As apps are replatformed and modernized, the protocols and the security mechanisms that they leverage might be different than the legacy ones. The modern apps might use protocols or mechanisms like JOT token or OAuth, and the legacy apps might be leveraging basic authentication or SAML. Apigee provides uniformity by exposing a single security mechanism to the apps while mediating the credentials between the legacy and the modern apps. Apigee can also provide security checks or enforcements like regex checks or data loss prevention checks when when the on-premise workloads are calling workloads on the cloud. The third aspect was visibility. Because here, Apigee acts as a facade between the on-premise and the cloud workloads, it has the required visibility on how the migration is progressing. What's the traction on migration? And it can give us the data like which are the APIs or API products that are leveraging newer backends, which are the ones who are leveraging legacy backends, have all the traffic moved to the new backends so that I can decommission my legacy applications. This allows the platform and the product owners to take business-driven decisions that are needed for any organization. The fourth challenge that we spoke about was interoperability. The reality is that not all apps can be migrated at once, which means that there'll be apps which have been replatformed and modernized and moved to cloud, which still needs to talk to legacy backends. Or there might be newer apps that are being written today, and they might have to talk to both legacy and the new backends. Apigee helps by providing an API facade which can do the required transformation, like SOAP to REST, and it takes out the necessity for the app developers, the modern apps, to have conditional code or download specific libraries to talk to, let's say, a SOAP backend. Moving on, the last one was service management. Lift, shift, and modernize is a common way of migrating to the cloud. And many organizations leverage microservices, often on Kubernetes, to achieve the same. Now, as I said, while we are aware of the benefits of the microservices-driven architecture, the challenge is an explosion of microservices in an organization. We need the right security and visibility to make sure that those microservices are adopted across the organization to prevent any duplication of code or security loopholes. Istio is a common way to manage this, which acts as a service mesh. Apigee acts an additional API management layer by providing security protocols like OAuth or additional analytics. For organizations who are not leveraging Istio, our micro gateway, Apigee's micro gateway, provides the similar capabilities. With that, I come to the end of the first section. So we spoke about the various paths towards migration, the top 5 challenges that organizations face on modernizing and migrating to the cloud. And finally, we spoke about how can APIs and API management help mitigate some of those risks. Now, before handing over to Josh, I'm going to give you the first Aussie fun fact of the day. Australia is an island nation. It has more than 10,000 beaches. So if you were to visit one new beach every day, it's going to take you 27 years to visit all of them. Who wants to get started? Thank you.
Thank you, Parna. Thanks. All right, so now I'm going to introduce you to Woolworths. Woolworths is a customer of Apigee's. Woolworths was founded in Australia in 1924. They started as a small location called Woolworths Stupendous Bargain Basement. And as they continued to grow and spread throughout Australia, they developed a nationwide presence around 1960. They were soon on their way to becoming a household name. Come February 1998, they launched Home Shop, which is e-commerce for groceries, and it was one of the first in the world to offer groceries fresh to your door after ordering online. There was a couple other group businesses who also endeavored online during this time as well. Woolworths is a combination of a lot of smaller businesses, and each individual business had a concentrated effort to establish an online presence individually. So as these businesses continue to evolve and new technology becomes available, our websites that were once hosted in a private data center were lacking access to the technologies, and we were fastly getting outpaced. So that developed an opportunity for us to migrate into the cloud. Not only did we want to lift and shift, like Parna had spoken to before, but we also wanted to modernize it. And it's not your regular digital transformation, it's also a supermarket at nature trying to enter a digital market. So in order for us to accomplish some of these digital feats, the Woolworths Group started combining a few of our efforts and establishing a holistic customer experience by way of WooliesX. WooliesX is a combination of engineering and business professionals that concentrate on the customer experience at the forefront of every decision that's made. You can see here we have over 500 team members and 400 customer service agents working to make sure that our team understands the needs of our customers. Things that we've been able to accomplish in the few short years since this organization was formed we are up to 11.5 million rewards members. So to give you a bit of context, there's only 24 million people living in Australia. So we're nearly half of half of the population is a rewards member. Another quick fact is there's only about 12,000 households, or sorry, 12 million households in Australia. So we're one for one in every household, not particular every household, but numbers-wise. Some other things to note, we do over $2 billion in transactions. And that's quite a big number when we're talking about a supermarket that's moving online. So how do we get started on Apigee? We had the need to connect our consumer applications with some back-end services that were not particularly owned by us. We had applications that need to connect to third-party services, and then we also had employee apps that need to connect to our HR services. We started with 2 businesses, 6 developers, built 15 APIs, and was handling around 45 transactions per second. Apigee helped us streamline the developer experience. A couple of the key features that Parna wasn't able to speak into are the developer portal. The developer portal allows you to create an API key and understand the contracts that are established between our APIs and you as the consumer. The consumer doesn't have to be an internal employee. It can also be an external consumer. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure that people understand is anything that's good enough for your internal teams should be provided as good or even better for your external. And similarly, anything that you're going to deliver at high quality for your external consumers, you should treat your developers with the same level of establishment. Some other things that really benefit us are permissions. The granularity of permissions on the Apigee platform allow us to get down to delivery of the application to production, traceability of those transactions during live messaging, as well as visibility into analytics and controls that help safeguard our APIs. APIs abuse prevention, in the way of Apigee Sense, allows us to capitalize on Apigee's AI and ML models to identify anomalies and any other malicious behavior and stop it before it gets to our systems. And this is a key thing for us to make sure that our customers themselves are getting a consistent experience, no matter who's being malicious on our network. And additionally, API monitoring allows us to make sure that our traffic patterns are where we expect them to be. If we see an increase of 500s over a period of time, we can alert ourselves over email, Slack, or even a customized webhook. And those webhooks can be very powerful to integrate with any of the systems that are not onboarded into the Apigee platform. One of the other key things that I want to mention is Parna, as well as other of our account and support engagements at Apigee, have been along with us every step of the way and have been critical for our success on the platform. So with our success, we unlock new business opportunities. Some of these are business ventures that capitalize on just an abstraction between the customer and our back-end services and don't offer anything in the way of really adopting or spreading data between the services. Other services are fully connected into each other via data. So our insurance service, our credit cards and financial services and gift cards, those are all services that are brand new and we're trying to explore as a company. Later on, we'll build out the technologies, establish them ourselves, but the presence on Apigee will not change. We'll try and keep that contract as consistent as possible. Scan and Go, which is a new innovative customer experience for our stores, allows customers to walk in, find the goods they need, scan them with their phone, and complete the checkout process themselves. They don't have to walk through our checkout lines or deal with any of our employees. They can just create their own experience within our stores. Woolworths Online also reaches almost 500,000 customers actively. And we run our mobile applications through Apigee to make sure that, again, our customers gain a consistent experience when integrating with our services. And then down in the bottom right, you see rewards. Rewards is a critical component to collecting that customer experience data and making sure that we can consume it and then respond to it. We can take the rewards data and integrate it with every single one of our services because of the availability that we have on Apigee. So we continue to grow. We now have reached over 10 businesses internally. We have more than 18 developers actively developing on APIs. The evolution, the modernization, the governance of those APIs. We're trying to keep them up to date and making sure that all 1,000 of our available APIs are up to the same standard as we want. And now we transact over 480 times a second on all of our APIs. And that's something that we've peaked quite a ways higher, but it is without a hitch. So as with most growth, there becomes a few challenges. There's an evolution, new opportunities arise. And I'll talk to you about one of our opportunities to migrate from a database as a service to GCP Cloud SQL. All of our back-end ancillary systems deliver a large parcel of data into a blob storage. And then we utilize triggers to transact that data and load it into our databases. Apigee acts as an abstraction layer. So during the development of Scan and Go, our product that I was telling you about, we needed to move the data from our database as a service over to Cloud SQL. Our database as a service was operating in an account that we didn't have full control over. We didn't have the ability to react or permiss any additional resources. So in order for us to continue to grow and expand our operations, we needed to take that control into ourselves. So we utilized Apigee to continue that contract with our customers while we make those back-end changes. So a lot of that learning that we had to do is still with a very new organization. We're only a year and a half in at this point. And we were able to do it with the support of Parna and the team at Apigee to redevelop our loader scripts within Google. We were able to move the data over preemptively. We're also able to test and go through all of the scenarios to make sure that our applications are going to respond to the new data store. And we were able to do it with only a 30-minute window of execution. Special thanks to Terry, Shyam, Madan, our API team, our business teams, our QAs, and the support staff who made sure that we were diligent about every aspect of this migration. So now we'll transition to another Aussie fun fact. And we've added on this slide the crest from Australia. A good fact about the kangaroo and the emu are they cannot walk backwards. And so there's a bit of meaning as to why they face each other on the crest. So now I'd like to introduce you to Olive. Olive is our virtual assistant that we're developing outside of our cognitive technology services team. Olive is able to analyze customer inquiries, align their intents with actionable workflows, and then take that data, package it up, and present it back to the consumers in a consumable way. We have features like our store locator and hours of operation. We also have features to modify your lists, manage your shopping lists, and answer any frequently asked questions that you might have. So what I'll talk to you through is a quick demo of our Olive platform. So I'm going to focus on our Google Home integration.
The mic's back on.
Sorry for the loudness. All right, so, OK, Google, talk to Woolworths.
Sure, let's get Woolworths. Welcome to Woolies. How can I help you today?
What's my nearest store?
To find the address for your local store, I'll just need to get your current location from Google. Is that okay?
Yes.
The address for Woolworths Wagga Wagga is 87 Baylis Street, Wagga Wagga, New South Wales 2650. Is there anything else?
What time do they open?
Woolworths Wagga Wagga at 87 Baylis Street is open today from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. Is there anything else?
What's on my shopping list?
Your shopping list is empty. Would you like to add something?
Add milk to my shopping list.
I added milk. Would you like to add another item to your list?
Wouldn't be Aussie without Vegemite.
I added Vegemite. Would you like to add another item to your list?
Some Tim Tams.
I added symptoms. Would you like to add another item to your list?
Doesn't understand my American accent, sorry. No.
Sorry, would you like to add another item?
No.
Can I help with something else?
No.
Thanks for speaking with the fresh food people. Goodbye.
So there's a quick introduction to our cognitive
off.
services that we're trying to develop. And the key factor there is we have back-end services that have a data that the customers want to have access to, and they want to be comfortable accessing that data. They want to be able to interface with our business in the ways that they're most easily available to them. So one of the things that we did there was talk about our shopping lists. And so I'll switch over to my laptop, which will show you our website. And on our website, I've already logged in. I can just click on my lists, go to my Google Home, and you can see I added symptoms to my shopping list. I'll just go ahead and remove that for us. The other thing that we have integrated into our website is the ease to take something that was spoken and then turn it into a search just by clicking on it. You can scroll through the results, find the one you want, quickly add it to the cart, and then continue with the next step, your next item, and do the same. We'll go with the drought relief milk, help out the farmers, and then continue the checkout process from there. Thanks. Switch back to the slides. And so how were we able to accomplish this? We started with a very simple task to make sure that we take a real customer impacting event as well as a real business impacting event, and we married them together. Our customers call up our customer hub, and they want to know specific information that's very readily available, but they don't have any other way to get it. Calling up our customer hub takes up time. There's a lot of other activities that our customer hub endeavors in that take up a lot more time than they probably need to. So we utilize our voice integrated with Dialogflow. We work with our applications that are hosted within GKE. We then operate through Apigee to our back-end services to find the data that we need, to deliver the experience that we want. Funnel it back into our applications in GKE, which prepares it for delivery to the customer. Our chatbot is able to connect to our customers via Hangouts, a chatbot virtual assistant on our website. You can call us up on the IVR or speak to us on the Google Home. And we utilize the same architecture, oversimplified for this illustration, for all of it. And that allows us to expand even more into answering and connecting with our customers in a digital way. We want to make sure that it's not just our Woolworths online experience that they have access to, but also our BWS, our Big W, our Dan Murphy's, our money and financial services. And we want them to be comfortable and connect to us in any way that they would like, over Facebook Messenger, Alexas, Homes, digital assistants of any kind. And I think that that brings us to the end, so we can ask any questions if you guys have any. Thank you.
There are a few questions on the Dory, but before that, if anybody has a live question, we can take that first. A couple of questions on the Dory about, could we get access to the recorded presentation? Absolutely. I think it will be added to YouTube in the next few weeks.
The slides are also going to be prepared as a PDF and available as well.
Yeah. All right. The next one, could the Apigee API be used for monitoring service management, incident management, escalations? So Apigee acts as a abstraction layer or a facade, which means that Apigee can be leveraged for monitoring your API's SLAs and SLOs. And it's, in fact, that's something which Woolworths uses significantly. Josh, you want to share your experience with API monitoring?
Yeah, so we utilize API monitoring to make sure that our backend services understand what scale of traffic is coming through the platform. When we're caching on the front end or within the Apigee layer, it's not always clear a small change that introduces entropy or dynamicity into the requests, how much of an effect that might have if it's not able to cache it on that layer. So we want to make sure that we're very cognizant of how much traffic is flowing through Apigee. And we utilize alerting and different dynamics. There's multiple different dimensions available to measure to alert us of any changes in the transactions as well.
Absolutely. Question from Allstate, a few likes and upvotes for that one. Do you think, so this is for you, Josh, do you think the adoption of Apigee and API management and productionization of APIs by Woolies help grew or increase revenue? If yes, can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely, because we want to make sure that we have that consistent customer experience across all of our businesses. And what that's going to do is generate a bond with our customer. It's going to set some expectations, and they're going to feel comfortable transacting with us. So the immediate revenue increase is to make it available for our customers to shop or interact with our services on a variety of platforms. But then the long-term increase of maintaining that customer retention is also beneficial.
Sure. Thanks, Josh. The next one again for you, somebody from Delta Airlines. Again, upvoted a few times. Could you talk about the API development roadmap used at WooliesX? How the APIs were identified? Was that a business-driven top-down versus a project-driven bottom-up approach to develop and deliver APIs?
Yeah, absolutely. So the necessity for data to become available should be the first thing that you consider when you're developing your services. It's not necessarily the data that's valuable to you, but the data available for other services to integrate with you. Especially in a distributed microservice world, you want to make sure that you're not having to modify the contracts to provide the data that somebody might need to make a business transaction possible. One of the situations that we've ran into while establishing a virtual assistant was we didn't necessarily have access to the data that we wanted to improve the customer experience. Things like, what time will my order be delivered? So we're constantly working on enabling integration and putting that at the forefront of a lot of the business decisions that we make when first designing those services.
Yeah, it's always a combination of both, but understanding that who are the consumers of your APIs and making sure that you identify and then work backwards from there is usually a good recipe.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next one from Optimos, again, a lot of upvotes for that. How do you determine bad consumers? What advice would you give to a government entity looking to leverage Apigee? First of all, leverage Apigee, absolutely. And if you have questions, come to the Apigee booth downstairs. But handing over to Josh, how do you determine bad consumers?
So you repeat the question one more time?
How do you determine bad consumers? I guess this is from an external end user perspective, from a sense, I guess, from bot detection.
Right. So Apigee Sense provides us a bit of the bad actor detection, and we're actually it doesn't ever reach our systems themselves. We're able to get a report on what transactions have been blocked on the Apigee layer and then react to those. If we wanted to try and data mine to make sure that we're analyzing the traffic patterns that or the opportunities that people potentially might explore with other APIs that don't process through Apigee, there are opportunities for us to go back and analyze those reports to see which ones are actively being actioned, as well as any of the traffic that comes all the way through. Apigee provides an opportunity for us to analyze the data themselves, data from those transactions as well. So if we do see something that may have made it through Apigee Sense, we're still able to go back and try and identify some of those traffic patterns and utilize our own defenses at that point.
Yeah, and especially in the case of Woolworths, we have seen how geolocation, where is the originating traffic, that has helped quite a bit. Like, you don't expect people from Asian countries to put online requests on Woolworths in Australia. So geolocation, again, a part of Apigee Sense, has helped quite a bit. And again, we do have a lot of government entities who are Apigee's customers, a lot of security patterns that we have been able to establish. So definitely worth a chat, whoever has posted that question. Quickly moving on. We do have time, so I guess we are doing fine. In your experience, what are your most critical patterns and anti-patterns for API-driven development?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a bit earlier, and you never know the data that's going to be consumed until you go to utilize it and it's not there. You want to make sure that you're trying to identify the best ways to vend the data in a protected manner, but make it available for internal consumers and, in some cases, external consumers to identify. The other thing is to make sure that your developers know very well how to version. An API forms a contract between consumers and services, and if we don't version it properly, features or data might not be available the next time they call your service. And we want to make sure that internally, every contract that we commit to maintains the same level of inputs, outputs, and data formats as we once committed to, all the way through the lifecycle. Which leads me to the next point, which is know and establish a deprecation policy. Make sure that before you put something into production, you know exactly how you're going to go about taking out of production as well when the validity or life cycle of that service is over. I think those would be the three things that I would.
Absolutely. And again, Apigee has published a book recently, and it's technology agnostics on anti-patterns, best practices around APIs. So maybe I'll put a link to the into the Dory question later on. A question that's getting a lot of votes is how many poisonous snakes are in Australia?
There's a ton of poisonous snakes.
A lot. I think this is time for both Josh and I to also share a secret. Both of us are kind of fake Australians. I'm an Indian and Josh is an American, but yeah. Yep. But loads, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of creatures out to get you in Australia.
How does Apigee work with multi-cloud environments? This is a good question. A few comments there. Do you have a federated API gateway? That's a great question. Yes. Apigee Hybrid is something which we are announcing as part of Next. We would be able to provide API gateways which can run in any, near to your data center in multiple locations with a single control plane. To know more, please do visit the Apigee booth in the expo area. But a short answer is yes. Even with multi-cloud, I think, as it was mentioned in the keynote today, we do know that most organizations will have multiple clouds, just like Woolworths. And we do have the ability to work across multiple clouds with our hybrid offering. It's a good question there. Thank you. Oh, somebody put a comment saying we have multiple cloud situations, and so far, Apigee has worked well. So thanks, Glenn, for putting the comment there. We do have time for a few more. Where do your Apigee alerts get routed to in Woolworths? Does it use webhooks to call PagerDuty? I think we are getting deep into details now. Or send an email directly, or does it feed into a bigger system for alert management?
So Apigee Sense itself provides you not Sense, API monitoring, right?
Monitoring, yes.
Yeah, API monitoring provides you the opportunity to specify email address, Slack integration, and webhooks, as well as PagerDuty integration natively. So you can work your alerts into those systems. Things that I would utilize webhooks for would be executing maybe a service wow incident or some other incident managements to try and get you a bit more of a record on your incident management systems that Apigee can tie into.
Sure. Another question from Delta Airlines, Rajiv. Was your API development centralized or distributed? A great question again. How did the org adapt to APIs? Was there a separate governance team to build and enforce standards?
So the question around centralization versus distribution, we utilize a central team structure, and my developers themselves are actually integrated into the squads. So we utilize the central team to form a community around APIs and best practices, governance, and then also to share knowledge around what has worked and what has caused challenges. But the developers themselves actually operate strictly within the businesses. So it is quite the decentralized model in that sense.
Yeah. And usually our recommendation when we work with customers is to start maybe with a centralized team to ensure that the best practices and the governance is being put in place. And then as you mature and the API program matures, it makes sense to have a decentralized team. And we call it governance with a small g, which means that the idea is to enable the team to innovate and leverage the platform rather than act as another gate there. But yes, absolutely. I think we have seen multiple customers follow the same route that Woolworths has done through. Can you speak to Apigee deployment model in use at Woolworths? Are you using Apigee Cloud on-prem or hybrid?
So right now we operate solely on cloud services within Apigee. That said, we are working with the engineering teams at Apigee to be one of the early adopters of the hybrid cloud, looking to see how it fits into our current cloud operations and permissions models and structures. So the way that we organize our services within GCP is going to be different than the way that we organize within Azure. And we want to work with Apigee to make sure that it's comfortable when we move Apigee into those different cloud providers. And so I would say that it's a primarily on cloud. We utilize the tools that are provided for us. And then in the future, we're going to be utilizing more of a CI/CD delivery model to each individual pod that we deploy for Apigee.
Sure. Another question on, can you let us know what sort of API versioning features are provided and leveraged? So this is part of the API design itself.
Yeah, and Apigee provides you with is a few different environments that you can set up to stage any of your production changes before you get them to all the way through your pipelines to production. Within each stage, you're getting access to every single version. A version is actually, in Apigee's sense, a set of artifacts. And once that set of artifacts has been uploaded to the platform, it's available to be made into a production service or made available on any of those environments. And it's very quickly to demote or promote one of those versions into an operation. The actual management of the versioning of the API should be done within your code and then delivered to the system in a way that allows you to manage which ones are currently in production without affecting any of the other deployments that you've already made.
Cool. Maybe this is the last question that we take now?
Yeah, we're running up on time.
We will, be running out of time soon. How do you engage with external app developers, and how did you achieve better engagement and participation? Again, a key part of any API program is engaging the app developers, both internal and external.
So each one of our external app developers goes through our business-to-business team. And the business-to-business team has a core function to establish that relationship. But as you can imagine, the developers are not part of that transaction usually. So a lot of our documentation is available via the developer portal for the APIs that we make available for our external consumers. The adoption of it, though, is driven by an active conversation that we maintain between our developers, our external developers, and our internal developers. We provide an opportunity for them to get together and actually discuss any of the challenges that the external consumer might come across, and then also work to make sure that we address them.
Yeah, and we have seen organizations have a specific rule around evangelism, both internal and external. And hackathons play an important role to make sure that your APIs are well known internally and even expose it to the external consumers. So events like hackathons actually help. All right, with that, thank you again for staying back. Let's head to the after party.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.